Well, it's Tuesday morning already. Can you believe it? We just passed Monday and now it's Tuesday. Time goes by fast, doesn't it? I was looking at some old Facebook videos. You know how Facebook comes up and they always remind you every single day of pictures you've done or also videos that you've put out there. And every single morning they have something, and they published one that was 3 years ago, and I'm thinking to myself, 3 years ago, why has time gone by so fast? Time zooms by. I get older, which isn't the bad part, but time just zooms by so fast. So that means that you and we've got to live our life to the fullest. Not complain and moan and groan and get involved in all this political nonsense. We have a life to live. We have something to give back to this great country and communities that we live in. We need to start being a little bit brighter on what we do. 3, 6 years. I look at these videos and it just seems like it was yesterday that I was recording that nonsense. But what can you do? I mean, we get so busy with our lives and we get into the turmoils of what's happening and we are trying to do things, and then lockdown came and that made time, that made time go faster for me. It seems like 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 months, they zoom by so quickly. Gosh, we're getting old, aren't we? At least I'm getting older, it seems like. Listen, I want to talk just a little bit today. A lot of you Democrats are out there wringing your hands and moaning and groaning and calling Trump a crook and everything else on his tax returns. And you're really sounding like a bunch of idiots. I'm going to be blunt about this. You're sounding like a bunch of idiots. And you're calling him a criminal and calling him a fraudster and all this other stuff. All the man did was apply the United States tax code to his tax returns. Just like you do when you prepare your tax returns every year. You look for all the benefits that you can get that's going to help you tax-wise. You didn't create a crime. You looked for the code that was going to help you. You took the child care credit, you took the rental credit, you took everything, the depreciation credit, you took everything that was going to benefit you on your tax return. And it's the same story that Donald Trump did too. Now, you want to look at his tax returns, it's not going to tell you nothing about his wealth. I don't even know how they came up with the New York Times, how they came up with the loans and everything and the debt that he has. That's not going to be on his tax returns. It's not going to be there. Unless you look at all of the corporations and LLCs and S Corps and C Corps and all the other things that are there that will show on his liability. On his personal tax returns, there is no assets and liability. So they're not going to see that information on what's lent there, what's loaned there. But if you're going to look at all of his hundreds of other businesses that he has a hand in, then you can see all the stuff. You can see on his balance sheet, you're going to be able to see the loans that are outstanding there and everything else. So New York Times really was stupid. They were absolutely stupid because it showed that they didn't release the tax returns. So we didn't see the actual tax returns. What we saw was just words of how they analyzed the tax returns. We've been through this before. I think it happened like 3 years ago where it went viral that his tax returns were released and ended up showing that MSNBC, they had that one female anchor on there and she found out that nothing was wrong with his tax returns. Listen, Donald Trump is just not his individual tax return. Donald Trump is made up by 100 other companies that are operating at their own life. They do not come over to his own personal tax return. He has some LLCs maybe that might be flowing through on the K1, but it's not going to show debt or anything like that. Might be the S Corp where it's flowing into his tax return. But you're not going to see all of the entities that he owns out there because some of them live lives by themselves apart from Donald Trump, even though he is a stockholder and owner, primary owner in those corporations. So you're wasting your time taking a look at Donald Trump's personal income tax return because it's only telling you what flowed into his personal tax return. It doesn't show everything else that he owns and the value of those assets. So you're wasting your time wanting to know how much trouble Donald Trump is in because you're not going to get it from his personal tax return. And listen, you're talking to a tax guy here. I've been doing tax returns since 1984, and I know how the numbers flow. And I also know how people take those numbers and interpret it and mix the numbers together and try to make a crude analysis of what they think is going on, but they have no idea because they don't see the full scope of the numbers. The numbers are what tells the story. And if you're not seeing the whole numbers of all of the other hundreds of tax returns that are out there on corporations and LLCs and S-Corps and everything else, and how they're flowing into each other, you will never know what the true value or the true tax scope of Donald Trump is. And let me tell you, when he says he has paid millions and millions of dollars into the tax system, he's paid in millions and maybe even billions of dollars into property taxes. His hotels have poured millions of dollars into the city coffers for hotel taxes. He has payroll taxes that he's paying on how many thousands of people that he owes. That he not owes, but that he employs. He has his income taxes on the corporations and stuff that may and may not owe. But there's a great tax code out there that everybody is using, but if somebody else uses it, they're evil. Bloomberg uses the tax codes to his benefit. Everybody uses who are into a very complicated financial situation uses the tax code to avoid the taxes legally, but they're not committing tax fraud. There's no tax fraud that has ever been proven. In the last 4 years, you guys have been hounding him. There has been no tax fraud. There has been no cases from the Internal Revenue Service on tax fraud. So, you guys, you're making a big deal just for political purposes. Not because you really want to know, but you've got something that you can grab onto and go with, but then end up looking stupid because the New York Times is already looking stupid because their numbers just don't add up. And whoever gave those tax returns to those news outlets committed a fraud. Under the Internal Revenue Service code, you are not allowed to give out other people's tax returns unless you have permission of the taxpayer to do so. And I can tell you right now, Donald Trump gave no one no permission whatsoever to give out anything. So it's kind of dirty tricks. It's unethical. And yet you want to believe an unethical story from unethical people. You're really grasping for anything at the moment because we're so close to the elections that you want to create stories. But in the meantime, what happens? We find out that certain congresswoman from Minnesota, is harvesting ballots for pay. That's what we learn. We learn that one of Biden's political associates that he's using is being convicted of harvesting ballots. So when you people out there are fighting saying there should be no Supreme Court justice picked until after the election, no, you're wrong. We have too many election issues going on. We have over 30 election lawsuits currently in all of the lower courts that may go up to the Supreme Court. The Democrats have already lawyered it up to challenge the election results. And it's going to go to the Supreme Court, so we need all 9 seats filled. Because there's going to be some decisions that are going to have to be made. I certainly don't want to go into the Congress with Nancy Pelosi. And I certainly don't want to have to go back to this. Listen, Nancy Pelosi has already told everybody in Congress that's Democrat. Get prepared. Get prepared for a fight. That's what she has told them. So we're going to have a challenge to the Constitution. And we're going to have a challenge to the presidency of the United States. So we better have all 9 justices sitting on the bench, ready to go to make some election day legal decisions. But those of you out there who are pining and moaning and groaning and crying and everything else about Donald Trump's tax returns, shut up. Just shut up. There's nothing there for you to grasp onto. Nothing. If you want me to look at his tax returns, I wouldn't do it because it's under audit. I tell you something. I'm so tired of all of this nonsense, political nonsense, and all of this trashing of people. It's just gone way too far. Way, way too far. I love this country and I want to see it succeed. I want to see everybody in this nation succeed. I don't care what station in life that you're on. You have the possibility of doing whatever you want to because that's what this nation provides for you and provides for me. But all of this angry hate that we've been hearing for 4 long years out of the Democratic Congress there, trying to impeach, trying to create treason, trying to do all of this nonsense on a president who's trying to do his job. You know how much they could do if they worked together? If Nancy Pelosi decided, I'm not going to hate tomorrow and I'm actually going to work with the president, so much could be done for this great country of ours. But instead, what do? There's a continued fight every single day. Nancy Pelosi has lost it. Maxine Waters has lost it. Elizabeth Warren has lost it. Joe Biden has lost it. And tonight we're going to hear a debate. I don't even know if I'm going to turn into the debate. I may just to see how Biden reacts and how he responds. But I've already made up my mind of who I'm going to vote for. So the debate is not going to sway me either way. But it might be a good show just to watch to see exactly what happens with Joe Biden. Tax returns, nothing there. Russia, nothing there. Ukraine, nothing there. Phone calls, nothing there. It's a nothing world that keeps being pounded upon every single day because they're hoping that something's going to stick. And now Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi are talking about impeachment. Impeachment on what? No laws have been broken. Just because Donald Trump wants to nominate and appoint a new justice for the Supreme Court, which is needed, it's required constitutionally, they want to impeach him. Or they're throwing those words out. And they have to throw those words out because that just eats with their base. They just get so excited. By the way, you guys in Hollywood, come on. You guys are saying, we're going to leave the country. You keep saying that every single year. People keep saying, we're going to leave the country if a certain person gets elected, but you never leave. You still continue to make your millions of dollars. John Legend continues to make millions of dollars. buys $1 million homes. But he never leaves. He stays in this country and moans and groans and belly aches and everything else. George Clooney does the same thing. Everybody else does the same thing. Now, George Clooney could leave because he has that big old villa sitting in Italy on Lake Como. He could easily leave. So leave. If you want to leave, go. But don't sit in this great country of ours and bellyache and say you're going to leave and then never do anything about it. Madonna says the same thing. I tell you, it gets very exasperating as we listen to these nonsensical elitists. George Clooney, yesterday on Facebook or whatever it was, went through his whole line of jobs and how he was not an elitist as Donald Trump had said about him. But he failed to tell you that his family grew up in show business. He had an aunt that was a superstar in the music business. He fails to tell you that part of it. So I tell you, it becomes nauseous. You become nauseous after a while listening to all these people trying to justify who they are, but we already know who they are. I tell you, I used to live in the Hollywood Hills. And one of the streets trying to get to my house ran through George Clooney's neighborhood. Twice, my streets were blocked off because George Clooney was having a fundraiser for Obama at his home. I remember that so clearly. I had to go a long way out of my way. In fact, I had to make a U-turn, go down and get back on the freeway again, and find another street to get up to my house. Because George Clooney was having a presidential fundraiser for Obama. Now, of course, when that happens, it shuts down everything because the presidential motorcade has to come through, all of the elites come through, security is tight. I remember when Obama first became president, and I was living in Beverly Hills at that time. And the street that I lived on was the street that the Wilshire Hotel was on, which is on Wilshire Boulevard. They literally, when the president stayed there, they would put concrete barriers on our street so we could not get into our street. We had to go all the way around trying to get into where we lived and go down the alleyway trying to get into our parking spots. So I've been affected by these elites. I tell you, they have blocked streets. They have shut me out of trying to get home. I have lived through it in Beverly Hills. I've lived through it in Hollywood. I tell you, the day that I moved out of Hollywood, my office is out of Burbank, and moved them to Florida was the best day ever. A weight was lifted off of me. I no longer had to be politically correct. I wasn't very politically correct when I was there. I had many people in the industry telling me that I should probably not say much about Obama, but I did anyway. And I literally had them come to my office and say, you probably shouldn't say anything about Obama. I did anyway. I liked Obama as a person. I just did not like his political policies. I've been through the Hollywood situation, so I know all about the Hollywood elite. I've had to deal with it. Started my practice in 1984, and it ended in 2019. It was my last year when I shut down my business for good and moved everything to the East Coast. So anyway, that's my discussion today on the president's tax returns. You're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to have any legal issues. There's no legal issues. There's no corruption. No one's cheated. Everybody has filed their tax returns. They're in compliance with their tax returns. They have used the tax code that has been written for everybody to use. So let's stop talking about nothing and let's start talking about what these people have planned for America. Let's talk about the accomplishments these individuals have done. You've got two people to look at. You have Trump and you've got Biden. Look at their record. Look at what they've done. Look at their plan for going forward. And that's what you should be making your decision on. Not upon political party, but based upon what these individuals have done and will do. This is Mike Lodge. Listen, if you have any questions or comments, send me a text at 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. I'll be more than happy to answer any question. Listen, this is Mike Lodge. Everybody go out and have a great day. I'll talk with you very soon. God bless. This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content. Talk with you soon. Bye-bye.